meeting of the Lafayette Design Review Commission. We will start with the roll call. Commissioner Sim.
Here.
Commissioner Hadaloo.
Here. Commissioner
Cass.
Present.
And Commissioner and Vice Chair Seidel.
Present.
And Commissioner and Chair Gray present. We are all here this evening. We have the agenda and you have all seen it. Motion to adopt.
I'll make a motion.
I have a friendly amendment. Usually study sessions are before new public hearings. And for some reason, most recently, the agendas have kind of switched it up. So I would recommend moving it back to its usual spot before public hearing, but after consent.
Okay, so I agree with that. So I'll make a motion to adopt the amended agenda.
I second that.
Armin seconds. All in favor. Eugene.
Aye.
Armin.
Aye.
Glenn.
Aye.
Kristen.
Aye.
John is aye. So we will do that. Thank you. Next on the agenda is our time for public comments for those items within our purview that are not on this or an upcoming agenda. Nancy, would you like to invite public comment?
If anyone would like to make a public comment on items not on the agenda, please use the raise hand function or *9. I'm seeing none.
Okay, then we can move on to our consent calendar. We have meeting minutes from our September 28th meeting, and thank you for those. All commissioners were present except for Kristen at that one. Do we have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Glenn. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Armin. All in favor, Eugene?
Aye.
Armin?
Aye.
Glenn?
Aye.
And John is aye. They were nicely done. Thank you. And next on our agenda is staff introductions. So take it away, Nancy.
I would like to introduce Samina Lim Kidakwala. She is our planning tech. She's been with the city for just over a year, but recently assigned to more entitlement projects. So you'll be seeing much more of her. Another person, Eric Laramara, he actually isn't able to attend tonight's meeting, so I'll be presenting for his item tonight. But when he does come to DRC, I will introduce him then.
Thank you.
Well, welcome, Samina. Nice to meet you.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you. Welcome.
Okay, so we will move to study session. This evening, our study session is SS 13-22. Simanian is the project owner. This is for a project at 1030 Brown Avenue.
Good evening, commissioners. As I said earlier, I'll be presenting on behalf of Eric Laramar tonight. Oops, I'm sorry, this is the wrong one. Okay. The item before you is study session 1322 for Simanian, seeking design feedback for the commission for conceptual design for two-story single-family homes at 1030 Brown Avenue prior to finalizing their design for a subsequent entitlement application. The subject property is zone C1 and located in the downtown specific plan area, specifically East End and along Brown Avenue. The lot is currently developed with a one-story single-family home that was previously used as commercial, but now residential. Per the downtown specific plan, Brown Avenue is envisioned to maintain a small village and historic character, where small-scale development on these generally compact lots Residential is allowed throughout the city and is allowed in this district. Here are two renderings of their conceptual design. This is along Brown Avenue, and then this is as you enter to see the second residence in the rear. Both homes will be approximately 26 to 2,700 square feet with a max ridge of 31 feet, and they both have some decks or balconies on the upper story for open space. Proposed materials include hardy board that is board and batten in gray and white, along with stone, asphalt shingle roof, some brick, and white trim. With the front home, it's lighter in color than the rear, but generally those materials are shared between the two. The design review commission should speak to, sorry about that. The design review commission speak to the overall organization of the site, citing, massing, materials and colors and elevations. Since this is a study session, no formal action is required. This concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Nancy. Do we have commissioner questions for Nancy?
None.
So I do have one, and it's regarding land use, which I know is not the primary agenda of this evening. But in reviewing the downtown design guidelines, which specifically addresses the what's called the Brown Avenue character area, the uses envisioned do not include low density housing. It's either commercial, where the intent is to have a residential type scale for commercial uses, or housing density up to 35 dwelling units per acre. So it seems to me that compared to the vision defined in the downtown design guidelines for this area, the land use is low intensity, and this would be kind of locking in a low intensity use for the foreseeable future. I'm wondering how the city would consider that, Nancy.
So the downtown guidelines really are guidelines. It's really on the specific plan in the zoning code, and zoning code allows residential as a by right use in this district.
And there's no concern if, I mean, is this lot like a quarter acre, something like that?
I believe it's less than that.
So with 2 units, we're, somewhere in the 10, I would say 10 dwelling units per acre sounds like approximately the ratio. So the zoning allows for triple the density as this, if I'm understanding correctly. But we don't have any concerns about it being underbuilt. Okay, that's my question. Thank you. Okay, with no further questions, we can invite the applicant to present.
I will be promoting Scott Thompson.
Hello, Commission, and thank you for hearing our project. Thanks, Nancy, for the introduction on the project. I will go through a brief presentation. I think it's a fairly straightforward project, but if you guys have any questions as I go through, let me know. I will go ahead and share my screen. So she said it's on Brown. It's about 3 properties up the street from that really cool new townhome project down at the corner. And it's we're proposing 2 buildings. As you know, Brown Avenue does have an overlay, and they talk about kind of the unique character of the houses along that street. Historically, I believe the street was developed as single family, and then kind of through history, they've kind of flip-flopped and gone commercial and single family, but a lot of them are pretty low scale. And so when we started looking at the project, one of the things that we looked at was kind of the overriding scale of the neighborhood, most of the properties on the east side of the street, which is where ours is, are kind of 1-story houses that have been converted, with some 2-story apartment buildings to the west side of Brown. So when we looked at the general massing of our project, we wanted to kind of take hints from both of those. So we started designing it. We step scale of the project down towards the street. So you can see we've stepped down to 1-story massing on the towards Brown, and then kind of gone increased density and height as you move back further in the site. A note from kind of a site design standpoint, we did pull the garages back. I did not want to have kind of a very vehicular heavy presence on Brown, so we tried to hide the parking and garages to the back so that it keeps the scale and kind of character of Brown. One other thing to note, there is a landscape easement that's measured from the face of curb, so we've maintained that. I believe we are complying with all the regulations. There's no setback requirements. Brown does have a unique thing where you're only allowed 2.5 stories, not 3 stories for the 35 feet, and we're complying with that as well. As we got into, one of the things we looked at was general kind of design. We wanted, we have living on the ground floor and bedrooms up above. Trying to open up, get some outdoor space for the backyard, the back unit, but really looking at development this size, kind of picturing the driveway will also be used as kind of outdoor living space for the 2 families that end up living here. Just to kind of touch on who is living here, the owner that is currently living on the property is actually going to be living in the back unit and then probably renting out the front unit. We looked at, as we developed it, looked at privacy between the 2 structures because they are close together. So we've tried to orient windows not to kind of address each other and give some privacy between the 2 structures. Elevation wise, tried to create, we want them to talk and mimic and match kind of architecturally, but not be, too cookie cutter the same. So we've a lot of the same architectural forms what you'll see between both of them, fairly traditional architecture, and then playing a little bit with color and materiality to differentiate the 2 structures a little bit. As Nancy talked about, it is mainly hardy, some veneer stone. And then we'll just kind of end on a couple of renderings. And that is it for my presentation. And I look forward and always appreciate your guys' comments. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We have commissioner questions for Scott.
I have one. Scott, on your elevation, is that the cedar tree in the backyard that's being maintained, or is that not the cedar tree? The existing cedar?
It is not the cedar tree. Yeah, where is it? See here, the big cedar. Oh, I can't. You guys are. Let's see. You probably can see it, but our faces are over the top. The cedar tree is back here. We looked at trying to keep it. I think it's just too close and would be too much of a danger for the buildings once they're built. So we had proposed removing it.
Okay, thank you.
I have one question. Did you, I assume you did, but just want to confirm, did you study to make sure that you have adequate turning radius to be able to pull cars down that thin driveway and get in and out of garages?
We did. I looked at, so we have the 20, I think it's 25 feet from face of garage and then 26 feet from the back of the parking space, which will get us turnaround. I think some of these we tried to pull the building back so that they can get some maneuvering space and get out. We did look at that when and then just from a fire, we did look at fire standpoint too. We're small enough that we don't need to get a truck in here, so we didn't need to worry about that. And then we've also located the egress windows so that the pads can all be accessed with the ladder angles, so none of them will be on the side or we're pushing up closer to the property line.
Thank you. Let's see, I've got a couple of questions. The 5-foot separation between the 2 houses, that will require a fire rated exterior. You confirmed that you can get code compliance with the buildings that close?
Yeah, I think we looked at that, and I think under that was on that face there. So as we went up, we did step.
Your audio is cutting out a little bit, at least it is for me.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Now we can, yes.
Yeah, the ground floor, we won't be able to do it. I think we looked at basically when you get the kind of the invisible property line between the two structures, our goal is that it would be pushed up further to the back building so that we can get some windows up in that upper story. So you can kind of play the game of getting over 3 feet to get the windows in.
Okay, it makes sense, but they are close and they don't appear to have party wall construction or anything like that.
Yeah, they will be the 1 hour construction, but
regarding your decks, I mean, obviously there is not a lot of exterior space available, so the idea of roof decks does seem appropriate. They may be in line of sound of the freeway, and I'm wondering if you've considered the potential acoustic impact of being close to the freeway that way.
I did not take that into consideration. Actually, that's a very good good point, because they are on the freeway side for sure.
Okay, those are my only questions. No other commissioner questions?
Yes, Scott, are you going to have fence around this property, or is it just using hedges, or what sort of definition of property are you going to have around it? Are you going to have fences? Basically, question.
It's kind of TBD still, but I'm assuming that we'll have fences at least on the kind of the 3 sides. I'm not envisioning no kind of secured parking or anything like that. And I wasn't envisioning kind of a picket fence or anything along the street frontage. I was just kind of going to keep it open and more natural, but there will be a landscape architect kind of that I prefer to.
Yeah, it's such a small site and narrow, you know, I like your approach that you're going to try to keep it open. Well, sorry about making comments like that, but so yeah, that's a question. Another question I have is, obviously you do you have trash enclosure around on this thing?
We do not.
Okay.
And I think the intent would be to try to fit it in the garages if we can get space.
Okay, got it. Yeah, thanks, Scott.
Any further commissioner questions? Okay, then we can open this to public comment. Members of the public are welcome to comment for up to 3 minutes. Nancy, do we have any public comment, any hands raised?
If anyone would like to make a comment on this item, please use the raise hand function. No hands.
Okay, then we will close to public comment, and the applicant does not need to respond to no comments. So with that, we can open this to commissioner comments. Would any of you like to start?
Yeah, I could start.
Okay, Eugene.
My comments are very brief. I think the architect has taken a very, I think I have no problems with the approach that has been taken here. I like the way the massing, the flat terrace or balcony type of form is integrated into the building form to break up all the gabling and hipping going on. And so there's that relief. I also appreciate the architect commenting that it's such a small, narrow site to keep it more open-ended and integrate visually to the rest of the scenery there, that stay away from high picket fences or wrought iron fences. Just maybe use landscape features to kind of create edges and defensible zones, and that sort of thing would be really, I would appreciate that, because it's we would like to see the beautiful buildings in that area. It's a caged fence type of look. So that's it. And then please provide trash enclosure location and integrate into the building, because that's going to take up some footprint. Hopefully it could be all fitting into the garage, but I don't know. And then what's the other stuff? Oh, you got mailboxes. Oh, those are details, but you know, things like that always make a difference. All right, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Eugene. Kristen, would you like to go next?
Sure. So I, in general, agree with Eugene. I think it's a well-conceived design. I appreciate the thoughtful way of working with a small site. I think in addition to Eugene's comments, I have two things I'd like to highlight. One is that the driveway is a lot of space on the site. So I think it's critical that it doesn't just become a asphalt or, you know, a sloppy concrete. It'd be nice if it's definitely, you know, I think it's very important that it's a nice material, that it's finished well, that it's integrated with the plantings. The way you talk about it being an important part of the outdoor area for both homes, I imagine that you are already considering it that way, but I think that's important. And then the only elevation that I have a little bit of a question about, and it could also be resolved with some taller landscaping. So it would be the west elevation of the rear house. So it's what you see as you're driving up the driveway, and it's what we see on screen now. It's the main portion of wall that's solid without windows. To me, there's a lot of sort of equal balance between the void of the window and the solid of the wall plane, except at the lower part of that rear house as on axis with the driveway. So I don't know if there's a way to either put an opening into it or think about a more vertical plant there, just to have something that is more consistent with the approach taken with the rest of the design moves.
Okay,
I think
thanks,
we lost
Kristen.
him. Did we lose him?
Did we lose the applicant?
I think so. He didn't like what I had to say.
Should we give Scott a minute to come back? I'd just like to confirm, Scott, I see you're back. Can you hear us? Hello, Scott. We do not hear you. Well, you may have to look at the video. We do record these sessions and the city has them available on YouTube. Armin, would you like to go next?
Sure. I agree with the comments from Regine and Kristen. And I was going to mention about the driveway, especially because of the open space of the site. It's very limited, and integrating some sort of landscaping into that space, I think that's critical. In addition to that, I appreciate the massing, and I think the building and the articulation, it's well conceived. The other thing, which might be minor, I want to add is that these two are going to be two separate families, and then the windows that's facing the upper deck of the house on the back side, I think there might be some sort of privacy concern there too, that I would just encourage the applicant to take a look at that too, in terms of the window locations and the balcony of the second unit.
Okay.
Other than that, I think the project is looking very good.
Thank you, Armin. Glenn?
Yes, I visited the site and I don't think the acoustics is going to be a problem. Actually, because of its downgrade, downhill, it's actually shielded to some extent by the topography because it's still low to the ground. And so I don't really see any need for any barriers or anything around those balconies. I sort of like the design. I don't have any problems. I agree with the treatment of the driveway. And I like the idea that they move the garages to the side yard there, to take them away from the visibility on Brown Avenue. So it looks good to me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Glenn. My comments, I do agree with the comments of the other commissioners. I think that as a design, in terms of its massing, its character, and its organization on the site. I think it really is going very much in the right direction. It's compatible with the form and scale of the buildings around it, and does, I think it will feel quite at home on Brown Avenue. So I compliment the designer in that regard. Because it's a small site and there's a lot of ground coverage by the buildings and the paved areas, I would hope that the designer can look at a permeable paving in a driveway area. It should look nice, and I appreciate that it's shown as concrete and not asphalt. But one way or another, it would be great to get some permeability there. Also, I would like to pick up on the privacy comment that some of the other commissioners have made. In the west house, the bedroom that faces east and faces the other house, the two windows that are shown facing east, perhaps they could have a high windowsill above eye level to get in some daylight, but not to allow direct view in or out of that room. But other than that, I think the designer is has got a great start here. So thank you. And with that, I guess we can move on to our next agenda item. So now we are going back to new public hearings. So the first of our new public hearings is HDP 12-22, Grood, if I'm saying that correctly, request for hillside development permit at 1440 Release Valley Road. So Samina, are you our presenter?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
I'll start sharing my screen. That's the PDF. Okay. Good evening, commissioners and members of the public. The application before you today is HDP 1222 Grood, request for hillside and design review permit for renovation of the existing residence and additions including a new garage and living area to the existing single-family residence at 1440 Release Valley Road. The size of the property is 1.7 acres in the R40 zoning district within the Hillside Overlay District. Here are some pictures of the existing site condition and context. This shows that this is Release Valley Road, and you can see that there is existing fence and hedge on both sides of the road. This picture shows the existing site topography, downslope towards the south. Further, this picture shows the existing leveled area and to be demolished staircase for the new additions on this side. This picture shows the northeast corner of the property where a minor portion of the existing patio encroaches in the rear setback area. No additions are proposed on the east side. And this picture shows the existing driveways private driveways towards the properties 1446 and 1442 Release Valley Road on the north side. Further, here is the site plan that shows the 2,594 square feet of 1 and 2 story additions on the rear and side of the residence and 1,481 square feet of new impervious surfaces on and around the building envelope. The project proposes 48 cubic yards of earth movement and minor driveway alteration in line with the new proposed garage. Here are the floor plans. The first floor addition includes aligning the existing walls and adding new breakfast nook, bedroom, storage area, and new 2-car garage. The second story additions include 3 sizable bedrooms, laundry room, bathroom, and walk-in closet. The result of these additions would be around 5,000 square feet of 2-story single-family residence with a maximum ridge height of 23 feet 2 inches. This slide shows the existing elevation drawings. in which you can see that the proposed additions and renovated facade follows the line of the existing residence, and proposed elements such as the low-shed skillion roof will help spruce up the existing facades. The project proposes composite shingle roof, dark sky compliant exterior lights, and board and batten to match the existing. Here are the proposed colored elevation drawing and the 3D view showing the inspired color scheme of proposed blue and gray family mixed color tones with wood accents. Next slide is, as of today, staff has received standard comments from 4 referee agencies and no public comments. Staff is able to make all the required findings and recommends adopting resolution 2022-12 and approving the project subject to standard conditions. With that, I conclude my presentation and I'm available if there are any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner, questions for Samina? Hearing none, we can invite the applicant to do their presentation.
I am inviting the architect Rebecca Schneier and the owner Tiffany Grood.
Great. Hi. Can everyone hear? Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Tiffany Grood, and I'm one of the owners at 1440 Release Valley Road. And I own and live in this home with my husband, our 18-month-old daughter, and my sister, Tamara. My sister, Tamara, and I have always been very close and dreamed of really having community living and raising our families together. And so we all moved here from our duplex in Oakland and earlier this year. And while the land, as Samina showed, is really extensive and pretty amazing for what we can get in the Bay Area, we always knew the home would need some changes to accommodate both of our families and our parents that come almost weekly to be very active grandparents and family and friends. And it's a pretty old home and has gone through a number of probably unpermitted changes from what we could tell. And as such, we've worked with our architect, Rebecca, to update the home, add some additional bedrooms and storage and a garage to just accommodate our family unit. And, it's been a pretty good process so far. We got here today and I'm excited to have Rebecca kind of walk you through our plans and answer any questions. Thank you. Take it away, Rebecca.
You're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Okay, great. Hi, good evening, commissioners and staff. My name is Rebecca Schneer. I'm the architect for the Grood Residence Addition. Just as a side note, I grew up in Lafayette in the 1960s and 70s, and when it was predominantly cow pastures and walnut tree groves. And so I take seriously, my heart takes this seriously to add to the built environment in your city. The project is for an addition to the existing house. It was originally constructed in 1899. That, as Tiffany said, it's had a variety of additions over the years. The existing house is 2,418 square feet. The addition will be 2,594 square feet, which will produce a home of just a little over 5,000 square feet. The size and layout are appropriate for the multi-generational family that it's being designed for. The 2 adult siblings and their families will share the house, and their parents will visit there quite a bit. The proposed project is consistent with the goals and policy of the general plan, hillside development standards, and residential design guidelines. The addition is conscientiously located on the site and designed to have minimum impact on the natural site, neighbors, and any public views. And as Samita said, the parcel is 1.7 acres. Can I share my screen? Is that possible?
Please do if the applicant has the ability to do so, Nancy.
Yes, it's allowed.
Okay, great. Here we go. Okay, thank you. Let me get you guys off to the side. Okay, so the maximum height, as Samita pointed out, of the addition is 23 feet 2 inches, which is well below the, which is 11 feet below the 35-foot maximum height limit. The addition is, by its location on the site, on the relatively level area adjacent to the existing house, minimizes disturbance of the property's open space, natural terrain, and natural visual character of the site when viewed from offsite. It leaves the more conspicuous, steeply sloped south hillside untouched, and the addition has been carefully and intentionally located in an area where the lot was already developed. And that showed a little bit. So this is the existing site plan, and you can see there's already this bit here. This is the site sloping south this way. So this is uphill, that's downhill. The previous owners graded, cleared, and developed with retaining walls, foundations, and paths this northwest area of the site. Finished floor heights of the addition are established so that only 48 cubic feet of cut and fill is required. The majority of the existing residence is being reused in order to keep impact and waste to a minimum. Existing native vegetation, animal habitats, and existing natural features will be retained, including all the prominent trees. The upper floor here, the upper floor of the addition specifically focuses north on 2 grand oaks. One is here and one is here. The owners are working with arborists to assure the long life and health of all trees on the property. And their aim is to retain as much of the natural untouched land as possible. The new 2-car garage, which is here, sits immediately adjacent to the access roadway, which is here, thereby minimizing the amount of new impervious surfaces and grading. It is hidden from off-site views other than when driving up and down the road, where it just serves 2 houses. The addition will have very limited, if any, impact on neighbors and public views and privacy. The closest neighbors, those 2 up the hill, will not be able to see any part of the new house from their homes. The proposed addition will not have any impact, therefore, on their privacy or views. Dense vegetation on all sides provides screening, and the 2 immediate neighboring houses will be protected. Down the hill, way down here, due to the topography and vegetation, it is substantially concealed from Release Valley Road and from views up the hillside from properties on the opposite side of the road. And the house and its addition are set back more than 80 feet here from the property line along the road, and more than 225 feet from the nearest closest, the nearest downhill neighbor. The new house will have a contemporary farmhouse character in keeping with the neighborhood residents. The addition extends the existing house to the west, creating a sheltered alcove, or courtyard, within the L-shaped floor plan. The massing runs parallel to site contours, minimizing visual impacts. New low-pitch shed roofs match the pitch and materials of the existing roofs. Subdued neutral colors and materials are consistent with the residential design guidelines and will blend with the setting. The primary addition emphasizes the horizontal and continues the seesawing rhythm of the existing roofs. The new roofs produce a cohesive assembly of elements, integrate well with the existing house, and have appropriately scaled accents in the massing. The new overall composition provides visual interest in line with residential design guidelines and is compatible with surrounding land features and development. The smaller breakfast nook addition with its complementary roof, you can see here and here, acts as an accent element in the crook of the house. It balances and repeats at a smaller scale the lines of the new primary suite, which is up here. Articulated facade elements such as overhangs, an arbor, varied wall planes, and materials create shadow relief and granular details breaking down the massing. The addition is appropriately scaled, commensurate with the size of the lot. and neighborhood context. The design will not sharply contrast with the surrounding architecture and is compatible with the neighborhood. That's it. Do you have any questions?
All right, thank you very much. Commissioner, questions for the applicant and the architect?
Yes, I have one question. I have one.
Go ahead, please.
To the architect, Rebecca, I'm trying to understand that deep shadow illustrated in the elevator, exactly right there where the arrow is.
Right, because this,
I'm trying to trace it to the other elevation on the left side. That's right there. Yeah. Is that what it is right there?
right, so this, that's
Yeah.
right, very observant. This is a sort of a knee wall that comes out underneath
Right.
because of the grade changes in this area.
Oh.
So that's why that comes out like that.
I see.
That
gotcha.
little wall right there.
I gotcha. I gotcha. Yeah, I understand the shadow. Yeah, you fooled me around there. Thanks. Nice.
I know
Okay.
it's a little,
Yeah,
I understand.
got it. All right,
Yeah.
got it. Thank you.
Any other questions? If none, we can open this to public comments. The public, members of the public are invited to comment for up to 3 minutes each.
If anyone would like to make a comment on this item, please use the raise hand function. There are no hands raised.
Okay, then we can skip applicant response and move right to commissioner comments. Is there anyone who would like to start? Glenn, do you want to start this time?
Sure. I agree with staff's recommendations. I agree with privacy is not an issue. Going to the site and seeing where the closest neighbors are in approximation. I sort of like what they did with the seesaw type roof, how they integrated that into the design of the existing. I like the project. No complaints.
Okay, thanks, Glenn. Armin, would you like to make your comments?
Sure. I think the proposed building in relation to the size of the site, I think that fits well and it's well nestled and there are no privacy concern from the neighbors, or it doesn't seem to be. And my comment is about the materials and the exterior. I don't think the elevations, they do the justice to represent the materials well. The rendering, those sample renderings that they're included in the package, even though it doesn't seem to be rendering of the project, but they show the materials and that the choice of the wood and the board and batten and the colors, this seems to be good selection for the color and the exterior finishes. Though it was a little bit confusing from the elevations, like, you know, you see that the textures, they are kind of mixed up over the wood. You would see the board and batten, and that was not very clear, even though you could just tell by the color. But I think that's minor. I understand the in general how the material and the look of the building is going to be, but if the applicant is going to come back to DRC, I would encourage to have rendered elevations. Otherwise, a clear elevation with a clear material board, I would encourage to see that as a separate exhibit.
Okay, thanks, Armin. Kristen, would you like to go next?
Sure. Overall, I think it's a nice design. I appreciate the articulation of the massing, how even though it's a long linear project, the different roof lines, how they relate to both the existing building and to a new design that feels like an updated understanding of a home on this site. I think the various cantilevered portions also give it interest, and the way those elements all work with the varied materials, I think works quite well. So I'm in support of it from those standpoints. And I also agree that based on the size of the lot and the distance from the neighbors as well as the slopes that there are no privacy concerns. So I have no concerns with the project.
Thank you. Eugene?
I echo everyone here, so I'm gonna get to, yeah, I'm fine with this project as well. I think I would like to, because I think there's some poetic here, Rebecca. There's some poetics here, and it's not coming through, for me more. So like Armin mentioned, if we could see a little bit more of a depiction. So when I look at the elevation, I have no problem. I think that what Kristen said, and Armin, and also Glenn, we're all there. But when I look at some, like say the garage elevation, that's where I got kind of dislocated. I saw the symmetry, but then I saw the, a little bit of something else, and I go, wow, complexity and contradiction. Robert Venturi would like this project. I go, yeah, it's very sophisticated, right? But I think that this merits some other, kind of additional representational tools, Rebecca, on your side. I'm fine with it tonight. This is a good project, right? There you go. Thank you. Complexity and contradictions.
All right, thank you, Eugene. Well, I too agree with all the comments that we've heard. I think this is a very interesting, substantial expansion that ends up feeling like it belongs as a single home. That the design is very coherent and well integrated. The massing and the colors do break down the scale. But the reality is, as you say, it is such a private site, such a private piece of land, that the public is not going to get to appreciate it. They won't see it and be bothered by it or ignore it. So I do not have concerns. I would like to see a color board approved, but I don't believe it needs to be done in public hearing. A material color board can be submitted for staff review, and they can solicit input from the commission separately if the staff prefers. But I am very comfortable with the project. I think you've done a nice job.
Yeah.
So we have a draft resolution.
I'll motion to adopt the draft resolution.
I'll second that.
I just wanted to recall, does the draft resolution call for the submission of a color board?
I think so.
I will add that as part of the conditions.
If you don't mind, I would appreciate that.
Sure, thank you.
And with that, we can call it a friendly amendment. We can, is that acceptable to those who made the motion?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, then we can vote. Eugene?
Aye.
Glenn?
Aye.
Kristen?
Aye.
Armin?
Aye.
And John is aye. So thank you very much. There is a 2-week appeal period, but staff should see your color board as well. Thank you very much.
Very
Good
much.
luck with your project.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay, with that, moving on to our next new public hearing. It is, we got a lot of numbers on this one. Don't make me read them all. It is the Miramar Mount Diablo Boulevard LLC is the owner for the project at 3462 and 3470 Mount Diablo Boulevard. This is a project that has been before I believe a joint planning and design review commission meeting prior. And Nancy, are you our presenter this evening?
I am. The item before you is the design details for DR 2519. I'll shorten that per the approval resolution condition for number 19. Here is a side-by-side site plan of an entire development previously approved by council and the current plan site plan before DRC tonight for design details. I want to note that the buildings circled in red, building number 1, which houses all the affordable units along First Street, and the medical office building along Mount Diablo are not before BRC tonight for design. These will be submitted separately for design details at a future date. Overall, staff finds the applicant has addressed each of the design details in the condition adequately. Building articulation has been modified slightly in terms of fenestration, massing, interior stacked units, which ultimately changes the facade fenestration, and removal of the game room on the northern end between building number 1 and number 2. Some other changes include parking reconfiguration by moving it from underneath building number 1 to be completely outside of that, and increasing the amount of parking and relocating some of the bike parking throughout the site. A community dog park is now introduced, also between building number 1 and number 2, and then some decks and patios as a result of changes into the building articulation has been reconfigured in terms of sizing and location. Also, building circulation, some stair and elevator locations have also been shifted throughout the buildings. Here is a site section of what was previously approved, showing generally one podium parking, technically 2 levels. It kind of follows the grade, but now they pushed it further down to have more parking, and increased from approximately 223 parking spaces to 342. Generally, the height of the entire building, the project is the same from viewed from Mount Diablo at the garage entry. Here are some side-by-side elevations showing the previously approved buildings from the interior pedestrian pathway, looking at the main entries, building number 2, building number 3, and here's building number 4 and number 5. And staff recommends that the BRC review the projects, provide feedback, and continue the matter to November 9th, not 23rd. It was an error in the agenda, for the applicant to provide additional screening around the water backflow along Mount Diablo that's not screened. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you, Nancy. Commissioner questions for Nancy?
Yes, I do. Tonight, Nancy, our focus is on item 19, is that right? From previous, right? Okay, our sole discussion and focus is that, right? Okay,
Yes.
got it. Thank you. All right.
Okay, then we can invite the applicant to present, please.
I am promoting the owner, Perry Hariri, and the project team.
Good evening, members of the committee. I'm Perry Hariri with Miramar Capital. We're the owners of the property. Nancy did a great job describing the scope of the presentation tonight. This project was approved about 1.5 years ago. Tonight we spent the last part of 1.5 years working on the construction documents and refining the construction design. And through that, there are some practical changes we have to make. Originally, when it was approved, the exterior elevations and design was approved and designed. And once we got through the floor plans and the practicality and the stacking, it necessitated some changes. But I think overall we're consistent with the design intent, the design language, the color, the massing, the scale, the overall language and effect we want to present. So I want to have our design team do the presentation. We have Mark Shermer and Brennan Weaver with BDE Architecture. And we also have our landscape architect and our civil engineer available for further questions.
Great. Thanks for the intro, Perry. I'm Brenna, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get us started here. So as Perry mentioned, this project was approved by you guys a while ago, and BDE has been working with our team to continue to refine on the original design intent, and changes that have been made are based on coordination that has been done with our consultant team. And so I think Nancy's report did a really great job at laying out all the different items that you guys have reviewed internally. And there's two things I want to touch on specifically with you guys right now. The first is the screening around the backflows, because I know there's some concern about that. And the second is about the window recess, because I believe there was also some discussion offline prior to this meeting about those window recesses. So to do that, I'm going to start off by sharing a diagram for the backflow locations. Those take part in this lower portion of the site right here. Wrong sheet. Okay. So as you can see in this plan here, we're zoomed into the southern portion of the site. And I'm going to zoom into this plan even further. So this plan is showing the above grade backflows that we are required to have. And right here, these elements are depicting the in-ground meters that we are required to have. Previously, this equipment was towards the left a little bit. Working with Annika, our landscape architect, and Megan, our civil engineer, they have been able to coordinate to shift these utilities slightly to the right. And they've also been able to shift them slightly further away from the sidewalk. And what this did is it allowed us to add this fencing in front of the above grade portion of those utilities. So you can see here how we've noticed there's board style fencing that is mounted on top of this bioretention wall here, continues along the facade, and is able to screen those elements. You can also see the large amount of planting that's indicated here to help soften that entry. We also have an elevation that shows you how that horizontal style fence will be able to screen those utilities, and you can kind of see how it'll tear down with the grade of the site. So we'd love to discuss with you guys. Hopefully this addresses the concern that was brought up to us previously, and would love any feedback you have. The second item I wanted to go over was the recessed window details. So we had some details provided in the set that you guys received. We have drafted those up. There were sketches, I believe, that you reviewed, and we've added some dimensions here to make it a little more clear. And so we wanted to start off by looking at the cement plaster details. I think typically what we see is that when you have richer materials, such as the siding or the metal panel that we have, the vertical metal panel, that adds a lot more depth in the material, but sometimes cement plaster can look really flat on a building. And so that's where it's critical to have that recessed window detail worked out. So you can see here what we've done is that we've pushed back the frame of the window approximately 2 inches. And we also have trim around all those windows, and we're using foam trim with the plaster going over it to achieve that detail of a trim around the windows. And as a result, you're seeing you get quite a big recess here from the face of foam trim to the face of glazing. And I think
ask you to zoom in so that we can read the numbers?
Sure, definitely.
Thank you.
So I think what this does is it really helps. And I should mention that, this is a generic window frame that we're showing right now. The window manufacturer will be bid out competitively and decided upon. So these are approximate numbers that you will see for the dimension of the glazing to the foam trim. But very realistic. This is a vinyl window that we use all the time. So I really think that having this trim as well as recess helps define those cement plaster facades. With the siding that we're looking at for this project, we've done this on numerous jobs where we feel like it's not necessary to adjust the framing to recess that window back further. You're able to get the interest of the material. You don't really have the siding doesn't appear as flat typically on big planes and buildings. And so we're still having the trim around windows, which is consistent with the style of the building. And you can see that we're achieving some depth just from the window frame itself. So with that, those were the two main issues that we wanted to go over today. We're happy to answer any other questions that you guys have.
Okay, thanks very much. Commissioner, questions for the design team and the applicant?
What happened to the game room?
So the game room that was up here.
Yes.
So we felt we were looking at that more closely as a team, and it was being relegated to, it was going to look like a shed, like a storage shed on the building. And we didn't think it added any design benefit. We wanted to keep the active area here, showing the chessboard and the basketball, and have that continue to be an active use. But, you know, in terms of providing a storage shed, we thought it was better just to have landscaping as a background to that active space and use space within the Commons House, our community building, to house any storage for the equipment here.
Other questions? Well, I have one. What is the status of the development of the more detailed design of the landscape, both public facing and the private within the pedestrian and fire road area?
Yeah, so we've done a lot of work with Annika, our landscape architect, on furthering that landscape design. And I think in the package was submitted, you'll see that there's been an update in terms of refinement of those spaces, as well as bike parking location, types of FF&E that's being provided from a landscape perspective. And if we can have Annika perhaps join the panel and go through it more thoroughly, if that'd be helpful.
Were there any rendered views of what that's going to look like, or is it strictly plan representation?
Plan representation.
So I would ask that as a next step. I think it would be helpful to understand the character visually with other than plan representation in addition.
Okay. Is there an area in particular that you're most interested in?
With the street facing area, which maybe is the other building that we're not even looking at tonight, and the sense of pedestrian flow inside. I mean, this plan is helpful, but what does it look like from eye level? A concern I had earlier was that this is really a fire road that is required, of course, but that is defining the sense of space in there. And I just wanted to see how you were working with that. So that it feels like a pedestrian zone and not like it's designed for a truck.
All right, okay. I think to address your first question, yes, a large portion of the street facing facade is within the building that's not within the scope of work for our review specifically today.
Okay.
Right here is the elevation that I showed previously on the screening exhibit.
You showed us a plan of that. Do you have an elevation?
Yes. So this is that main entry road.
Okay, I see. I think you must have zoomed in and I missed that. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, and then in terms of the experience at the Paseo, where you're right, we do have that fire truck access that we need to have in between buildings 3 and 4. I'm wondering if we have a section through that in a different document. I'm going to try to find that maybe while we talk and see if I can pull it up on the screen to help explain a little bit about the feel of that central area, if that's helpful.
It would be.
Okay, let me try to find that. We can keep asking questions though while I look for that.
That was the end of mine. Any other commissioner questions?
Yeah, I do. Brianna, right? Brianna.
Brenna, yep.
Brenna. Okay, thank you. I stand corrected. Hi, Brenna.
Hello.
So, but on that section profile, you mentioned both of them. Can you show me in elevation side by side with that? You mentioned stucco. Are you talking about smooth, very smooth? Is it rough? What sort of finish on the stucco to complement any other materiality you're exploring? I'd be interested in seeing that as well as details like your score joints and construction joints. Anything that will become a visual language there, I'd be interested in exploring.
Yeah, so I think one thing, and that's particular to this building for the cement plaster, is that for portions of it, we have a strong language of reveal lines. So you can see that these reveals are provided to align with the head and sill of the windows and are spaced evenly throughout the facade. And so I think that adds variation and a design language to the stucco portions of the building. There are other stucco portions of the building that do not have those reveals. For example, like in the red here, you can see, and those will be more of your traditional stucco facades that you see throughout the city.
And those are reveal joints, or are you talking about those are control joint like thin line? What is
Yeah,
it?
so we'll have our control joints at every floor line just to allow for that movement. To be honest, what's not shown here and that we will probably have are just very thin control joints just to prevent cracking at our window corners. It'll look something like that.
So my question, what's the texture? Is this a smooth texture? Because, stucco done really nicely, you could have real smooth ones, but are these smooth or rough? Are they regular stuff that you see everywhere? Or?
It's, I'd say it's somewhere in the middle. We're not going for the super, super smooth look. I think sometimes with that, any kind of cracking is accentuated. And so we're going, but we're not doing like a rough finish either.
Well, I don't know, I'm not here to disagree with you there. My question to you, Brenna, is these renderings seems to show elevations that are less detailed. Like what I'm looking at this abstractly right now as a representation tool, but these obviously elevation, you've now developed it further with more articulation where the roof lines are fascia and any trim lines. But when I look at it, it looks very reductive. I love modernism, but it looks very reductive. And I was wondering, is this actual drawing of an elevation right now? And these colors and this elevation, all the lines I see, that's all the lines we're going to see. Is this actually real elevation, or is this a representation, reductive elevation representing the concept?
No, this is a real elevation.
It is. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to understand, because I see the colors and that's where I see abstractions going on. I don't read all the lines that I want to see in the articulation of things. You're going to have downspouts, right? You're going to have downspouts probably. You probably have overflow somewhere. Oh, you're right.
Yeah, we're going to have internal roof drains. We have internal roof drains to the building. You're correct, though. I guess actually, they will not daylight. Excuse me. We have the roof drains that go through the building. They're captured in the garage, and then they're routed through the garage and site to our bioretention area along the street.
Yeah, because I'm focusing on item number 19, and my job is to look at detail, and because we don't have too many opportunities to meet with you by the rules. We want to make sure like what we see is what we're going to get, right? And give you guys also opportunity to explain. So I respect what you're showing us. I just am looking to make sure that we're not going to get a stripped down version of a building. Not that you are doing it, but sometimes when developers come before us, they show an elegant representation at the schematic phase when we ask for more design development or construction document, and they are shy because obviously you're doing value engineering, so you try to reduce it or reductiveness so that there's some flexibility to the value engineering maybe. So I just am just being cautious about my reading of this language that I see.
Brenna, could I make a suggestion?
Sure, yeah.
I think Eugene's questions may be answered if you do what I've just done on my other screen and zoom in and show the level of line work that's probably harder for us to see here.
Yeah, I guess because maybe you're just seeing like these masses of color and not
Yeah,
seeing the
yeah.
individual lines. Sorry about that.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true. Thank you, John. Thanks, Brenna. Thanks for your patience, Brenna. Oh yeah, that helps. That helps to clarify a little bit for me the pattern. Okay, enough talk. Another commissioners, please.
Okay, thanks, Eugene. Other questions for the team?
So I think my question is in line with what Eugene was mentioning about the enlarged section details and the elevations that we are looking at. Like here with the siding, you still have the darker trim. And if you could, is it possible for you to have the side by side, the detail and the elevation on the screen?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that helps.
Okay. So the trim would be flush with the siding. It's just a different color, right? As we are seeing on the elevation.
Yes.
And that color is consistent between the siding and the plaster.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, this is very helpful just to be able to see elevation and the sections. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, further questions or commissioner questions complete?
I don't have a question, but could you put up for a minute the elevation of the difference between what was approved by city council and what we have now?
Yes. So there's here, I'll do a split screen again and show multiple pages at the same time. Do you want me to review any areas?
Well, the biggest difference I see is that on the right-hand side of the screen, how
This one?
the original up at the top, how we had originally we had the upper story set back, and now it's in line with the other two stories. Yeah, right there.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that too, Glenn. So
what is that an apartment unit, or was that some other use that encroached out there, or what's in that area of the land?
I'm gonna have to pull up the plans. I'm not 100% sure why that varied. I can't remember exactly what the original plans are showing. Give me a moment.
Because that was, I believe, the downhill side, so it sort of stepped up with the hillside.
I'd have to go back and check the original plans. Honestly, I think we are just the unit plans changed slightly as we progressed the project, and I think it's just that part of the building was revised for the unit plan to work. Yeah, because that's this one right here. Because we did a lot of work on keeping the units to be stacking and also having less variation within the units. And so I think that's why that resulted in a different size unit than what was shown here. That's my best guess, but I have to go back and check the original plans to fully verify.
So Glenn and Brenna, I would probably want to see the elevation that's perpendicular to that then when you do that. Is it changing? I'm talking about an elevation that's not on this set. I'm talking about the same elevation Glenn is talking about, Brenna, at the top, at the corner. Then I need to turn that corner to see how how that now is looking on that side, on the
So like you want to see like this elevation, right?
yeah, left side added, right? Three-dimensionally, basically that corner. See what is happening, confirm basically. My concern is also that bottom elevation. I see a big swath of maybe is a shear wall. Is that X brace or K brace inside of it or shear wall?
This, yeah, I can explain this a little bit. This is our stairwells, and we revise those locations within the building.
Mhm.
Yeah, let me pull up the plan.
That's a major difference between the one right above to city council tonight.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So
Eugene, I had a similar question. That facade is relatively close to an adjacent building as well.
Mhm.
And that's actually part of the reason why I think it's
Oh.
beneficial to have that, because otherwise, once this plan loads, you'll see that this is from building 5. It's very close to building 4. So you can see right here, this is where we're looking at. So
Fire rating, is it fire rating or is a shear wall?
it's partly fire rating, but it's also just for the benefit of the tenants not to have windows so close looking into each other,
okay.
you know, prioritizing windows on the sides here so that it's a better living experience.
I see. That makes sense. That makes sense. And so all those windows in that lowest drawing is so not attractive for me, that pattern, compared to all that beautiful pattern language you got above. But you're faced with reality there. Are those facing adjacent across the way neighborhood there too? You got the red ones, right? The privacy wall that, you know, John was alluding, you're alluding that there's a fire code issue, but also maybe it was structure, but it's about privacy. But then the pattern of windows on the left and right side of that, even that area, the white area.
Oh, here?
Very institutional. Yeah. Where are those?
Oh.
Yeah, those. Yeah. Those vertical. Yeah. Are
Sure.
they?
I mean, we could explore something more like that. Again, I think it was just trying to have smaller window sizes. I can show you guys a plan too.
Because it was so busy on the upper elevation, maybe it looks.
Yeah, and it's partly just because it's bedrooms, so allowing for there to be some bed wall within that space, like having, you can, on this facade, there's more of the windows and you're able to have the bed wall on the facade where you wouldn't want huge windows anyways.
Would it be possible to integrate on that same elevation, the east elevation? You have these smaller, tall windows in the red zone that's on the right. Can't you make a window in the stairwell that's opaque and sort of takes away that mass?
So this, let me pull up a plan so you guys can see the stairs. What ends up happening is that those windows, because the stairs, well, the text is covering it, but it's going up and down this way, like you'd end up having a window kind of off center that we wouldn't want. And so, I mean, it's something we could look at, having windows in there. Yeah, we could look at it if you guys think that would be helpful. We could also accentuate this, you know, by adding more interest, like with some control joints to add a pattern there, you know, possibly looking at some planting. I should say that Annika, our landscape architect, has designed some nice planting, a lot of thorough planting that goes right in front of that building. So that would be helpful, I think, that, you know, you don't quite get an elevation.
Okay, trying to stay in the realm of questions rather than comments. Are there any other commissioner questions? If there are none, we can open this to public comment.
Anyone would like to make a comment on this item, please use the raise hand function. No hands are raised.
It's a quiet evening. Okay, then we can move past applicant response to comments and right to commissioner comments. Glenn, you were kind of starting in that direction. Would you like to continue?
Yeah, I mean, there's many aspects that I like, you know, between buildings 2 and 3. even though they're sort of mirror image buildings, how the articulation and the materials were, didn't make it all a mirror image building. I liked the landscaping, by the way. I thought they did a great job, and I was impressed that they stayed with so many low water use plants. Okay, literally, there's hardly anything that's, well, there's hardly anything that's very low, but they kept a very good control of the water use. On the building 5, well, the two things that sort of came out to me was the stairwell of building 5. It is a big solid mass without any breakup. And I think it appears that way to me because it goes the entire height of the building as well. So I would actually like to entertain seeing some windows in there, because I think it sort of could mirror image the other side that has those small narrow windows. And even if, no matter where they're located, they don't have to be centered in that mass. I think it would be an improvement. That's my opinion. The only other thing was, I'm still coming to grips with the building 4, because the original design had a more step back on the roof, the top level, and we lost that completely. And I honestly, I couldn't see what the old floor plan was to know what was different. But yeah, that's that blue area that we're looking at on the east elevation.
I actually pulled up the plan so I can share that.
Oh, great. Thank you.
There's
So,
the third level and then the fourth level.
so, I mean, it looks like the roof is in a similar spot, right? It's a little tricky because we're not seeing the unit that's below the roof on floor 4, because there's technically, usable building space there. And if you guys are seeing the same thing I am, it's looking like just a roof there.
Yeah, in the previous presentations we've seen, there was a 3-dimensional representation in bird's eye, where we could really understand the building form. I will add that I am concerned when we've got these for Lafayette. This is pretty much as tall as you'll see, and the step backs at the upper floor was a design move that I think everybody on this commission appreciated. And I'd like to know how much you're proposing to backtrack on those moves, which help mitigate the mass of the building.
Do you mind, Nancy, can we look at building 3 to see if that 4th floor is depicted the same way? I see there we can see the 4th floor a little bit better.
So is that in that lower left-hand corner of the 4th level, is that a roof terrace that would be lower than the adjacent portion of the floor? Is that what that is?
Yeah, I guess that's the question I have. Are we missing the terrace?
Oh,
Because
no.
we see on-
I can jump in here. So no, we're not missing the terrace. We definitely still have that terrace on buildings 3 and 4. That has remained. What is different is you see the trellis that's on the roof deck. To the right of it is what appears to be more roof deck. And that's why you're seeing the elevation pulled back a little bit. And that's where our plans differ slightly from what was reviewed previously.
And that's on both buildings 3 and 4? which are the ones who are the facade that's closest to Mount Diablo Boulevard.
Correct, behind the commercial building,
Right.
but yes, yeah. Yeah, of the buildings, that's the one closest to the Mount Diablo Boulevard. So it looks like maybe there's about a 3 foot to 5 foot difference in plan. And in elevation, it certainly looked like more than that. I am not sure why, honestly.
Well, if we're going to see this again, maybe we can clarify that. Glenn, did you have other comments?
No, no other comments, although I really do see a need for that, some step back.
Agreed. Yeah. And I do want to reiterate, we did not take away the roof terraces. Those are still in the project. I can share my screen again.
Okay. Okay, move on.
Eugene, would you like to go next?
Yeah, I think I'm going to piggyback with Glenn on that stair. I'm open-minded there as well with glass and or some windows. I think that the verticality expression has an opportunity to break the contiguous and all that mumble jumble. It's so busy. These elevations for me look so busy. I'm trying to figure out the initial poetic content of these moves, and I just am just like really today kind of, I'm still excited about this project, but I think number one comment for me is piggybacking with Glenn. I would like to see the stairs be further articulated as a lantern or a beacon or whatever you might call it, to further contrast it in a more luminous way rather than another solid object that is going vertical and you're now arbitrarily articulating with lines, very superficially doing that. So I would appreciate that. Number two, I think that elevation from the Mount Diablo Boulevard is so critical to me and everyone here, including Glenn's expression of concern there. So next time when BD comes before us, I would like to see that be clearly articulated and expressed so that, yeah, these drawings do show a little bit, but I think it's the colors are just so bold that I lose all the detail and I go like, wow, it's all stripped down, all the details. But when we blew it up closely, I go, oh, they're still in. So, I don't want to have a misunderstanding of how we're going to prove it later or regret it and have a disconnect between the architect and developer and get disappointed. We all want to have a beautiful project together. So going back, verticality, the front facade, those are very public domains. That's where I'm focused on, making sure those are really, really well done. I'm worried about stucco because you did mention, the architect did mention it's going to crack. And I know some stucco like Ricardo Legarettas don't crack. And I'm doing one where we think that it's not going to crack either for a long time because the stucco has always this issue. So I don't want our buildings with stucco in these very prominent locations to have cracks. So I think when I heard the cracking idea, I said, no, we want something else. So I get it why stucco is used here, cement plaster, but I don't think you got rain screen device going on here and Nishia product. Sorry, that's a product. We shouldn't mention and sell products here, but these other ideas, Hardy and other things that give us an additional palette. So I'm worried about stucco as a material on a very vertical profile and places where it's going to crack. Please do not make it crack.
And we definitely will have the appropriate control joints so you don't see the cracking.
Right. You're going to follow the best practices.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, that's it. I'm pretty sure there's other comments, but yeah, those are where I'm going to focus on. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Eugene. Kristen?
Thank you. So the main thing that I think we are tasked with looking at today were the details. So I do appreciate that your details have been further developed to introduce more depth in the facade. And I think our comments about the facade actually are having a hard time understanding some of the overall compositional elements, because these are big buildings and we're looking at them, in small drawings on small screens. So I would like to just return to the fact that for me, the details are reassuring that there is that consideration and detail in there. And so I think the second question that looking at these elevations has raised for us is starting to understand how we understand the continuity of these elevations in the city. And I think in some ways it's more challenging when we look at, the earlier approved version and the current version, because it's really easy, especially on that building 5.1, to say, oh, we lost all this detail, is that acceptable? Is it not acceptable? And when we looked at the building 5 elevations just now, it actually felt not as troubling to me as it did when I looked at it in comparison to the previously viewed option. So I think what I would want to see for the next presentation are representations that help me understand the overall mass and elevational condition of the building. So rather than just elevations, which I think it's really easy for them to become flat, and we fixate on which lines are there, which lines aren't there, which is exactly, I think, what Eugene is questioning, but maybe something a little more rendered or like zoomed in on like a portion of it so that we understand that there is that complexity and that density to the elevations. And I think a lot of our concerns might be allayed. And I also feel like on building 5, where that vertical element is that's getting a lot of attention, I agree, I don't love it, but I also think based on that narrow space between the buildings and the kind of perspective that you would have on it, that it's just less visible. So it stands out when we look at each elevation in isolation, but it might not be quite as problematic if we understand the overall project a little bit more. So for me, it would be helpful to see that project or see this project in that way, and I would be more convinced that these decisions are actually appropriate for the scale of the view that we have, and that there is actually the depth and the elevation that we're looking for, rather than just seeing elevation drawings.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Kristen. Armin.
I appreciate the development of the design and the details, and I think those were super helpful. And I agree with Bryn about the trim and especially on the siding that doesn't need that much recess. And it looks well developed for the plaster. About the articulation and the massing, I agree with Kristen's comment about some sort of 3D representation of before and after that what we were looking at. It was hard to understand that looking at the plans and elevations, and just I think a simple 3D could really help. The comment about the east elevation of building 5 and some of the other locations, I think there are some missed opportunities. The articulation and the massing in the previous one seem to be more developed than the current scheme. And for that specific stair, I think even the size of the building, number of the stories, and the height of the building, you could look at the exterior exit stairs rather than just enclosing that. So I would just encourage the applicant to look at some options like that how it could become an exterior and just, opens up the facade a little bit more rather than having a blank facade, and would also eliminate the requirement of the rated openings as well. So yeah, that's something to consider.
Okay, thanks, Armin. In general, my comments, I agree with most of the comments that were made previously. I would say my biggest concern is that compared to what we looked at before and what was approved at the south facades of buildings 3 and 4, the setback at the upper story has been eliminated. And for building 3 especially, which is right above the public access roof deck, I think an uninterrupted 4-story height is a reduction in the quality of the design. I think that a setback at level 3 was very helpful. I would hope that you could bring that back on both buildings 3 and 4, but especially building 3, where it'll be more prominent to Mount Diablo Boulevard, to the public space, and to the driveway. Let's see, regarding the east facade of building 5, I think it sounds like many of us, when we looked at that in your drawings, found that less pleasing than most of the other facades in the project. It just it felt like it was not that well resolved. Now, as we've discussed, it's not that visually prominent. I still think I would challenge the designer to do something, whether it's windows or some other treatment, to add some refinement and balance to that, so it doesn't feel like a leftover. But if a bird's eye view can convince us that nobody's going to see it, but the terrace is right across the way, well, maybe it's not that important. Finally, regarding your window details, I appreciate that you presented much more resolved details. I'm very comfortable with how you're handling windows in the stucco. I do not agree with one of the previous comments, however, regarding the windows and the siding. I believe that a shadow line, especially when you've got a 4-story facade of pretty sheer vertical rise, I think that windows with a shadow line really help interrupt the vertical rise. And that, to me, is as applicable in a sided condition as in the stucco condition. So I myself would like to see a similar recess treatment in both materials. So that has gotten through my list. Those are my comments.
Yeah. Chair, before we conclude here, item 19 had variety of listed items from staff report. One of them being art element along the public pathways. Have we got a confirmation here on what BD has shown on the construction document to confirm that it is with the initial intent that City Council reviewed? Building articulation is just one of the many, right? It also talks about roof forms, fenestration, building material color. We talked about that tonight. Above ground utility locations. That's another detail that has been mandated to the Design Review Commission tonight. And I didn't see any. Oh, no, we did talk about it. Sorry, we did talk about that one. All right. Another one is windows and doors. We did talk about windows, doors. I guess it's same idea, recess. Garage gates is another item being mandated tonight to be reviewed. So I'm just listing this from our staff report. So hopefully we as commissioners have comfort and that we've looked at it and give BD further directions, right? So let me go to a couple other items, right? Security, bicycle circulation, vents, louvers, fencing, railing, grading, drainage, stormwater locations, species of trees. I think we're all happy with landscaping, right? Retaining walls, building and ground lighting, even it says outdoor furniture and papers we're supposed to look at tonight. Okay, that's all. Those are items that were on the agenda.
Yeah, thank you, Eugene. Good points. Brenna and others, I hope you're able to bring that level of detail to us next time. When I look at the facades, I believe there are no louvers at all. Is that correct?
The main louver for the garage, we have shown the individual unit louvers are not depicted on the elevations. We can add those to make it more clear. There's still ongoing coordination with the mechanical. Okay, well, I mean, to Eugene's point, that will impact the appearance. Okay. So would it be helpful, like, do you want us to run through each of those items in the next meeting? Because I think we responded to each of those. We listed out those items and responded to each of them in our submittal. And we feel that information is in the planning set, but it sounds like it might be more helpful if I run through them specifically at the next meeting, like you were just mentioning.
Yeah, I agree. Brianna, that would help. Thank you.
Okay.
So we did see your letter from middle of last month. Yep. To Nancy. Mm-hmm. And Eugene, that I mean, I'm sure you saw that as well.
I saw it, but it helps to just collectively on the record, down the road.
Yeah, well, but in particular, there are some of the things that are discussed that are not depicted in the drawings.
Yeah, right.
So that would be helpful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience.
Yeah, I mean, we look forward to seeing this happen, but you know, we are trying to be diligent in our review.
Yeah.
Okay, then we thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, that takes us through our review items for this evening. Other business.
Wait, can you take a vote on that to continue it to date
Oh,
certain?
okay.
So moved. So moved. So move it.
I would
Yes.
recommend November 23rd, just to give the applicant some time to
Yeah.
gather materials and provide the renderings.
If we're able to have it ready by November 9th, is that a possibility?
That would mean that all materials would need to be submitted by next week.
Okay, I think we'll have to review internally to see if we can make that happen. But we'd like to get in as soon as possible.
But we could move it to the following meeting, and if they're still not ready at the next meeting, commission can move it to November 23rd.
Sure.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so the motion.
Motion is to continue on November 9th
Second.
with the comments indicated and additional details under item 19.
Second.
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 Okay, all in favor, Eugene,
Aye.
Glenn,
Aye.
Kristen,
Aye.
Armin,
Aye.
and I say, John says aye. Very good. Thank you, and thank you, Nancy, for keeping us on track.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, now moving on to other business. ARC volunteer for this Friday.
I can handle it.
Thanks, Glenn.
Thank you, Glenn, unless anyone else feels strongly. Under other business, Nancy, has there been a date established for the Planning Commission, Design Review Commission joint meeting on the 1001 Oak Hill project?
Yes, it is scheduled for November 7th.
Okay, it is. That's good to know. Thank you. Any commissioner reports this evening?
No report, but to be right to the point, is there a possibility, Nancy, that when someone PDFs the application, that the drawings are formatted, just ready to be printed if I need to make a print? I noticed that they're in different scale, and I know I can make it, adjust it, but it takes time. Is there a possibility you could just make that PDF to the size so I could just run a print?
So you want 11 by 17?
Yeah, or any size, it can fix it. It was just a big drawing, and you know how it is. Then you have to format it yourself to make the print. I can do that. If you could just help us out with a PDF to 11 by 17, whatever size, you know, then I can just print, right?
I can do that.
Smaller. Thank you. Thank you, Nancy.
Okay, staff liaison report, anything further? All right, then there is nothing else. We will adjourn and thank you all very much.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Good night.
Night.
Bye, everyone.